For me, as a kid growing up in the 60s, visual art and music were inseparable, and that's because I grew up with these things. Now, I was well too engaged in the reality of records to be that romantic about them. They were incredibly expensive. They sounded good for two or three plays, and then they started having pops and scratches and little crackly noises. But there was one really amazing thing about the record is that the cases they came in had lots of real estate to make art on. So if you're thinking at this point, I'm going to pull out some albums and show you examples, that's not going to happen because all my albums were moved into a barn that later lit on fire. So those albums are now globs of vinyl or disassociated particles floating around in the atmosphere. So we're going to have to make do with other things. So that album that I showed you, this one, which is the only album I could find. It's my father playing a Mendelssohn concerto. Comes in this great cover, which would be a couple of manila folders taped together. But we could do a reenactment. You'd get a brand new album and you'd slit open the plastic. But then you'd have this thing and it would have a picture on the front. It had liner notes. You could see who played bass guitar, all sorts of cool things. And it would give you this other level of involvement with the music because you have to remember at this time there was no internet. You couldn't go online and watch YouTube videos. You couldn't go to their Instagram and find out what flavor bagel they were eating. This is it. You listened to the music, you looked at this thing, that's all you got. So, okay, that's not completely satisfying. So I did go to a record store and I briefly took a couple of shots of album covers. Here they are. Now, for the most part, albums disappeared for decades until the Romantics brought them back. And in the interim, we had these things. And I remember feeling quite disappointed because you used to have those 12-inch vinyls. They had great big pictures on them. Now you had the smaller things, but little did I know, these things would go away also. And then we'd have our music online, and you might have a square in the corner of some website which would have the graphic that was paired with that particular tune. Now, I personally put all my music up on Bandcamp, and Bandcamp does give you that little square to put your little picture in, and it's like from the romance of the old days of the records and that great big picture. I got to put some graphic in with my music, and so I'll show you what I did for my song. Here's what I did. But one more thought. The artist, that is the musician, making their own art for their music is pretty well established. For instance, let's check this out. Let's see, that's Joni Mitchell's Ladies of the Canyon. She did that. Here's, how about this? Kate Bush made that picture. It's like, holy smoke. It's like, I wonder if she had any time to write music. But, and this, Tea for the Tillerman, without this graphic, it went hand in hand. So regardless of what I come up with, at least I'll be in good company. So the next thing to do is you have to pick an image that you're going to use to represent the song. And because this song has lyrics, it'd probably be best to go through them and figure it out. All right, here we go. Yeah, okay. So the big dramatic scene at the end of the song is we have a father who's down and wounded in a battle. His teenage daughter is trying to fend off a professional warrior with a spear. So that should be pretty dramatic, shouldn't it? So let's go out in the yard and set up some shots so that I have some photos to work from to make the graphic. Here we go. Now I've already set a motif for the album, which is called Moments of Inertia. See, it's kind of a little sciencey joke, you know, moment of inertia, but like when I have enough inertia to do something, I write music. But we have two things. We have cut out letters, but we also have a figure that's cut out, just the silhouette of the figure. So that's the idea I'm going to go with for the 4 songs, each song getting another graphic along these lines. So the first thing I had to do is set up my high-tech tripod here. Then I came out into the center of the scene, threw down a pillow to mark the center of the frame. And I had to get my props ready, my sword, my shield. I need my spear. And because the lyric is a figure in a white dress, I figured I'd wear my bathrobe so that hopefully it would look semi-dress like when I was done. Then I had to come back here and push the start button and then run like crazy before it took the shot. And then I got my three pictures. We have the Queen's man who's attacking. We've got Hector who's doing poorly. And our figure in the white dress, Lass, who's defending. And then what I do is you throw down a piece of white paper that I'll be cutting into. And I start with my first figure, lining up the two pages. Cut it out. This is a reenactment, by the way, because I already did it. And then your next guy, cut him out. And because the camera never moved, these will all line up as if they were all in one scene. And then this guy. And we'll pause for a moment. I'll show you the results. And here it is in its completed form. We have our attacker, poor old Hector, Lass defending, and then I cut out these letters. And the only thing I may change is right now the piece of paper is too flat. I want it to be more of a piece of paper, so I think I'll put some creases into it so it really becomes a piece of paper with these cutout figures in it. So for my closing ramble, I miss those great big album covers and that great big picture you got on the front of it. I don't miss albums at all, but I completely applaud those people who, in the face of change, said, no, I want to have my records. I want to have my records back. And they entirely revived this industry that had, for the most part, died. And I think that attitude, that lack of just passive acquiescence to whatever happens, is to be admired. Given the current crop of doofus billionaires who are forcing various changes on us, I think it's worth your time to sort through this stuff and say, hey, this is something of a value and we should keep this. Or, yeah, okay, this is much better, let's go with this. Because change does happen, whether that's, technological changes or, a new haircut or a different shirt and a change of continuity. So I think we should look at the online music that we are now purchasing and say, how do we get that artwork, that visual artwork, to seem once again with music? Because that's something worth keeping. All right, I have nothing left to say, so we're done. Bye.